Welcome all. Now I want to give the clarity on the topic service model. So this is a cloud model where based on the service it is providing, we categorize this type of cloud into service model clouds. Other thing was earlier we have discussed about deployment model, right? Based on the type of deployment it is having, we'll be considering it as public, private, hybrid, multi-cloud, community cloud, right? So those are the other category. And coming to multi-cloud, here um, it has three things. Okay, multi-cloud has three categories. One is IaaS. Okay, IaaS. Another one is PaaS. PaaS. And the final one was is SaaS. Okay, right? So what is IaaS? What is PaaS? And what is SaaS? So based on the service they are providing, based on the type of service they are providing, a particular cloud is considered as IaaS when if it is giving infrastructure as a service. Infrastructure is nothing but, like for us to take an example of, a house. Suppose if you are shooting, if you are a director and you are a producer, right? You want to shoot some scene. So if you want to shoot something, you want to have some property or location where you want to shoot. So you go and take a house for a rent, okay, and you use that location house for your shooting purpose, and then give away vacate the place, and you pay the charge for that. Whatever the charge you want to you use for this house, right? Similarly, infrastructure as a service. In this model, the service will be provided like, what are the service, we'll be having the cloud as an infrastructure. Here, why it is called an infrastructure? Because we need to maintain all the things, like, they will be giving us all the servers and all the things that are needed for us to run the applications. Okay, so what will be, like, what we will be managing, right? Let me give you here a little bit of notes. So here what we'll be doing, like, IaaS, right? Infrastructure as a service. So firstly, we'll be clearly discussing about what is IaaS, and then we'll be, talking about the next part of that. Okay. What is IaaS? Infrastructure as a infrastructure as a service. So what is infrastructure as a service? Here will be like, there will be a cloud provider. Okay, there will be a cloud provider. So for example, you can take an example of AWS. So this cloud provider will provide you with some systems or services, not services, we can say it as uh, servers. So this is a server. Consider this as a server system. It will be allocated to you. Okay, the infrastructure will be allocated to you, and you will be having that, you need to maintain the OS of this application and the application that is running in it. So you have, suppose you want to run some application in this server, right? So for that to happen, you need to manage, okay, you need to manage your OS. you need to manage your application. You have to all manage all these things. But what this a provider will manage? The provider will manage the server, the server itself, and the storage of the server. So there will be memory allocated, right? So that storage also will be sorry, will be allocated to the sorry, managed by the AWS server. And the networking that happens with these things also will be managed by the AWS. Yeah. So in this type of cloud, where you will get the cloud service as a infrastructure, so you will what will be what you should manage, what is your responsibility and what is not your responsibility to maintain, because okay. So if you are a company, or if you are an individual, if you want to take this as a service, if you are taking infrastructure as a service, you have to manage the OS here. Okay, you have to manage the OS. So we'll manage operating system and applications of the cloud. Where now where you want to run your application, there you have to manage the OS, you have to manage that application all by yourself. So what those providers will be managing is that they will be managing the things like mm, servers, storage, and network. So these things will be managed by the provider, service provider. Okay. So this is what. So this is this and this is this. So based on the dependency, or based on the need and the type of need, individual or company will take this infrastructure as a service. Okay. And there is another one that is called as PaaS. You may guess it that it is platform as a service. Platform as a service. So for this platform as a service, okay, okay. So this is PaaS, platform as a service. Here, what happens is that we need to if they will be providing you a platform directly as a service. Like platform is something like that where you can work upon. Like take the same example of some film shooting, right? So if the no service provider, they will be providing the platform as a service. Here, what does that mean is that you don't need to maintain or anything else, but only your applications. Like suppose if there is a shooting of some code scene or something, right? Earlier, if for infrastructure, you have taken in a house, so you have to decorate, or you need to remodel the house based on your requirement for of the scene, and then you have to shoot. But giving platform as a service is like ready to serve type of kind of service. There suppose in take the same analogy, we'll be taking the house, and that house is in it's a court setup. So if there is a court setup, suppose if you go to Ramoji Film City or anywhere, we'll be having different kinds of houses for setups, different kinds of setups. So just there will be a code setup house. There you have to go and you have to everything will be every set will be readily designed, and you have to just go and use the set for your scene, and you have to leave that. That's the point. Similarly, PaaS is a platform as a service where what you will be managing. Here you will be managing a lot of things like only your applications. Okay, you will only you don't manage a lot of things, but only your application will be managed by you, and rest you don't. The OS also will be managed by the service provider. So the servers, the storage, and the networkings, everything else will be managed by the service provider here. Okay, and you can know what who's know what type of person or user will be benefited by this type of application. It will be like the people who are working as uh, app engineers, developers. So, like for a developer, there is no need to manage the servers, right? Suppose the developer needs to write some code, and he does not have the knowledge, or he doesn't want to have that jargon of maintaining the servers, the storage, or network, everything else, right? He just want to focus on his coding, and he want to improve an application. That's it. So this type of thing will be given, this type of service will be used by the developers, because it is suitable for them, because everything will be ready for them to just work upon on the thing and directly go and produce your application successfully. So this is what it is best for the developers, for example, to say. And next one is SaaS. So this one is software as a service. What is this? Yes, so software as a service. So here, what it will have, like we don't need to manage everything, but here we need to manage what? We need to only manage the application here. Okay. So in coming to the software as a service service model, here the cloud will be completely managed by itself. Okay. So the cloud will manage everything, even from the storage network, servers, or all the application itself. Everything will be managed by the servers. Sorry, the service provider, or you can say this SaaS model. So this is this is directly we can access the. It will directly give us access. It is very friendly to the end user, because we can directly use without any knowledge of, we don't need to work or manage anything here. We directly use the application directly from our browser. And like for example, it will be like Google Workspace, or Microsoft 365, or something, some application which is directly you will be using with it, using whenever you want it, and you will close whenever you want it. It doesn't always no, you don't need to have to maintain any server. You don't need to maintain the application, whether it is running or not, if it is crashing or not, no, don't need to worry about all these things. So what is the difference, like there is a difference, like if this is software as a service, software as a service. Software as a service. Here, apart from, like, when you compare to, when you compare among these three, okay, SAS, IaaS, PaaS, okay, what is look, for you to think in terms of cost effective, what is most cost effective, you would think, like this will be very no cost less cost, it will be having a low cost, because certain type of operations will be managed by you itself, and because of they're providing some hardware or some services, those they'll be charging you some value. So here you will be having certain role where you have to manage operations and applications and OS and etc., right? So there the service that cost will be a little bit low compared to the others. And for taking this platform as a service here, the platform itself you have to know you have a lot of compared to this one, you have a lot less to manage and bother about. So these things will be a little bit more costlier because the management are not the problem of the chaos. There is no need to the struggle of maintaining an applications, OS and all things will be reduced compared to the IaaS. So compared to coming to SAS, software as a service, it is totally a little bit more costly because it will be giving you all the services that are provided. You want to use, you have to use directly without any intervention from your end, and don't need to maintain or support some server or some application or some OS. So everything will be managed and maintained by the service provider. Okay. What is a service? What the service provider that I'm talking about here? We are talking about the type of cloud service providers. Okay. So yeah. So for you to get a simple idea, there is a service model. In service model, there is three types. One IaaS model, next PaaS model, and third one is SaaS model. So that is first is infrastructure as a code, sorry, service, and it's a platform as a service, and this is a software as a service. And coming to the other type of model, like it is deployment model. So for coming to deployment model, here it is like private one, private cloud, public cloud, and combination of these private and public called hybrid, and using multiple public or multiple cloud networks becomes multi-cloud. Okay, and you're also like similar interested groups, people coming together, similar people, similar interested groups coming like banks or some universities or some hospitals, for having their common interest, they come together and maintain certain type of service and infrastructure. So this type of thing is called community, community cloud. So coming to the type of clouds and cloud providers, these are the things. So in the coming class, we'll be talking about what we'll be talking about AWS and in detail and how to create an instance in AWS. Firstly, we'll talk about EC2. EC2 is an Elastic Cloud Compute. It is a service provided by the AWS. Okay, and like there is a service model where if you want to maintain the application, the data, the runtime, the environment and middleware, OS, virtualization, server, storage, networking. If you want to maintain everything like on premise, no, on your location. Suppose if you are having a company and you want to run certain application, and if you want to maintain every data, every service that is network or everything will be maintained by you yourself with your hardware, then your servers and all things in your location, or or the location or of the office that you have. So such a thing is called on-premise service model, and the remaining things that I have told, right? IaaS, ISAS, PAS, they are things where we'll be managing certain things like in IaaS model. Let me get in detail for you to just to have an idea. We'll manage applications, data level, runtime environment, we'll be managing the middleware, we'll be managing the OS also. But if you for coming to this platform as a service, you'll only manage the application and data that is coming for the app. That's it. And SAS model, in SAS model, nothing, not even the application, not even the data, everything will be managed by the software as a service, cloud service. Okay.